what a story. I'm sure we'll talk about it in more detail, but I want to talk a little bit more about Tatum Brown. You wrote into the Observer about it. I've been reading with great interest as well as disappointment regarding the updates of my book. I won't even try to pretend that I'm not disappointed in its sales, but I'm even more concerned about its negative portrayal in the Observer. Yes, reviews have been very mixed. Opinions seem to generally range from people who really liked it, like Paul Allen of BookPage, who called it highly energetic, breakneck paced, and witty, laugh-out-loud funny, and surprisingly addictive entertaining, to people who like certain aspects of it, but overall found it too disturbing to truly enjoy. And I don't know, it feels like you maybe felt a little betrayed by Meltzer here, that maybe he could have been a little more complimentary since he's covering the biz.
I mean, when you write a novel, it's the closest I think a guy can come to giving birth.
Yeah.
You conceive it, you create it, you give birth to it.
And you release it into the world.
And you release it, and it's like somebody telling you your child is ugly.
Yeah.
And it really stings, I think more so than the memoir does. And I had some great reviews, and it did very well in the UK. But that was largely because one of the reviewers on the BBC read it, liked it, reported on it, and that made it acceptable for everyone else to treat it seriously. So there was even like a roundtable discussion on national BBC with three reviewers who really liked it, one who did not like it, but they covered it like it was a serious piece of literature. And I needed one of those reviews from one of those people. I needed a Kirkus Reviews or a New York Times. And it was almost like, the vast majority of reviews were very fair.
Yeah.
But I felt like there was a Russian figure skating judge in there, like just specifically trying to bury it. And so I did, look, if people in the outside world, we in the inside world, I think we accept inside the wrestling world, there's a little negative stigma about what we do.
Of course.
It's less than it was, but I think that there were people, especially a lot of reviewers or writers whose books have not done well, and they see a guy who's had some success with memoirs, and now you're entering their world, and just a couple of them are going to make it really difficult to be accepted in your world. So a guy named Jeff Gwynn from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram said, I'll tell you what, Mick, if you get a really bad review, Google that person and see how many books they've sold. You're going to find, and it's so much easier as a writer to show off your chops by giving a negative review than it is to say that something someone else wrote is good. So there were only a couple of those people, but I didn't get the break in the U.S. that I needed in the U.K., and that stuff did hurt my feelings. It would be like, I remember going to American Library Association, and I'm there as their keynote speaker. I've had the two memoirs have done really well. 2 children's books have hit the New York Times bestseller list. I sit down, and one of the ladies has to let me know about the bad review I just received. And it's like, why do you do, now I know better than to do that. And I've had enough wrestling criticism, so it kind of rolls off my back.
Yeah.
And why I felt like I needed to write into the Observer, I don't know. I'd probably done it 3 or 4 times, maybe 4 or 5 times.
That's pre-social media.
Over the years.
That hardened us all a little bit. Just mute it and move on. So you do this press tour that even continues to off the record, and you're here to promote the book, but you wind up talking a lot about Hulk Hogan taking shots at your body. This is a PR tour, but boy, it feels like we struck a nerve. Take us back. Why were you upset with Hogan?
Yeah, that was Michael Landsberg, right?
Yeah.
And it was one thing to see the words, because I had read the words, and I get along good with Hulk, right? And I know he's had his, very
ups and downs,
public ups and downs. And I think he's a good person who's said a few things that obviously
regrettable.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the racial stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
We've had discussions, and He thinks he's alone. Look, I've been around groups of guys, and when there's a bunch of white guys together and they think they're safe, you start hearing a little of that unfortunate language. So I think there's more of it than I understand that good people can say bad things.
Yes.
I think Hulkster's a good guy who's done a lot to help people. And even when I didn't like him, I would always go back to Shane Douglas telling me about his first run in WWE and how the Make-A-Wish kids would be around Hogan. He said, and these kids would just be beaming. And so whatever else anyone thinks about Hulk, as long as he's the guy that brought joy into the hearts, and we're not talking about a few people, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of children. Maybe not John Cena levels, but here's a guy, he brought a lot of joy into people's lives. And I always respect him for that. So my feeling is that Hulk was promoting his book, which is doing a fraction of what my book is doing.
Correct. And
it's probably been brought up to him, and he's probably at a breaking point, and he takes it out on me. And Michael Landsberg was basically saying, why do you figure you're still in it? And a guy like Mick Foley, so much younger than you, was already out. And Hulk could have answered a number of ways. He could have said, well, geez, have you seen the stuff that Mick does? It's a wonder he's still. He could have taken that in a positive direction. And instead he said he worked out more this week than I had in the last 5 years. And he said something about the early bird gets the worm or something like that. That didn't seem to make any sense. And you could see it hurt me because I wasn't a Hulkamaniac, but I understood he was one of the biggest stars in the history of our business. And he's got this, first of all, I did work out hard. I remember Frank Dusek telling me when I was in World Class, he said, the knock on you is that you don't work out. What I heard is that you work out hard and you work out smart. You just don't have any genetics. That's exactly the case, I was all up on the lingo. I knew about supersetting. I knew about rest pause. I knew about Mike Mentzer's heavy-duty pre-exhaustion techniques, and I tried them all. And there's very little difference in the way I looked when I was working out as hard as I possibly could. And, when I came back for my comeback matches and basically had given up with lifting weights and was doing just all cardio, which included the hand, not a treadmill, like a bike for your hand,
Yeah.
So you're hitting all those muscles. And even when I came back and I dropped a ton of weight in 2016, it was DDP yoga and swimming and doing aerobics in the pool that helped me out. So there was very little difference between me working out hard, getting the 30 grams of protein every 2 weeks, and me not working out and eating junk food, So I just never had that genetic hand. But nonetheless, those words, they stung, man. I was really open to. Criticism hurt me back then in a way that it no longer does.